Please welcome the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt.
Come on. Well, good morning. It is my honor. I'm going to make this sound official like we're at a city council meeting. I am honored to call to order this winter meeting of the United States Conference of Mayors. I am joined here by our vice president, the mayor of San Diego, Todd Gloria, and our second vice president. Yeah, let's hear it for Todd. It's probably because half the people here are from California, right? And then we also have our second vice president, the mayor of Lincoln, Nebraska, Lyrian Gaylor Baird. Give it up. So we've got a robust agenda here for you this morning and all week, and so much more to say. But I want to start by thanking the people who make this possible. Of course, you and your taxpayers. You know, your dues go a long way, but it's not everything. The sponsors are very critical to making this meeting a success, and we're going to open with that. I want to thank the sponsors of our 94th winter meeting, the American Beverage Association, the American Institute of Architects, Americans for the Arts. There's a lot of Americans behind this effort. CGI Digital, Citi, Comcast, Edison Electric Institute, Edward Jones, GoFundMe, Google, Grubhub, HDR, Ike Smart, Siemens USA, Via, is it Via or Via? Via, Waymo, and our title sponsor, Wells Fargo. So thank you all to our sponsors. And we invite you to join us tomorrow morning at the Mayors and Business Leaders Plenary Session, where Wells Fargo, along with Tampa Mayor Jane Castor and Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell, will discuss educating our residents regarding financial scams to help safeguard their future. So thank them all. Next up, we're going to roll right into the program. Of course, we have been talking about for the last couple of years how important housing is to our constituents and to this organization, and we have made tackling the nation's housing crisis a top priority. Under the leadership of immediate past president and chair of our housing task force, Mayor Andy Ginther of Columbus, we have fiercely advocated for a collaborative and comprehensive approach to investing in our nation's housing supply with federal partners. We are now closer than ever to seeing major bipartisan housing legislation, as both the Senate and the House have advanced housing legislation out of committee. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by the champions of the Senate's Road to Housing Act. First, we will hear a message from Senate Banking Committee Chairman Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Let's roll the tape.
Good morning, Mayors. First, let me thank you for your leadership in your communities across America. I want to briefly talk about something I know keeps you up at night, and it's the same thing that keeps working families up at night: the crushing cost of housing in our communities. We know that housing is typically a local issue, but here's what we are doing at the federal level: creating more incentives for jurisdictions to increase their housing supply. My nonpartisan housing affordability legislation is the most comprehensive effort to tackle housing costs in over a decade. We passed it unanimously out of the Banking Committee, 24-0. Nothing passes 24-0. Think about that. Common sense makes common ground. In today's Washington, we found common ground with senators like Elizabeth Warren and Pete Ricketts and other members on both sides of the aisle. This legislation cuts red tape, unlocks housing supply, and helps lower costs for working families. It's about making it easier to build more homes and restore the American dream of home ownership. It provides technical assistance to help mayors just like you across the country identify zoning reforms that actually work. And when those reforms pay off, and they will, this legislation rewards communities that deliver real, measurable results. Now here's where you come in. The House and I are committed to getting this across the finish line in 2026. Your voices, the voices of America's mayors, are critical. When you're meeting with your representatives in Washington or back at home in your states, tell them what's happening in your cities. Tell them about the shortage of housing. Tell them the stories about young families seeing the dream of home ownership slipping away. This is a nonpartisan, common sense effort to bring down the cost of housing. It deserves to pass. The American people need it to pass. And with your support, we will make 2026 the year of housing affordability. Thank you so much, and let's get this done together. God bless.
Let's thank Senator Scott for sending that important message. Now, joining us today in person is the Banking Committee ranking member. Senator Elizabeth Warren is a fearless consumer advocate and the senior senator from Massachusetts whose tireless work on making housing affordable, accessible, and equitable reflects the urgency of the issue. The senator will talk to us today about her bipartisan housing proposal that you just heard a little bit about, the Road to Housing Act, and how mayors can finally get housing legislation passed in Congress. It is also my honor to welcome Senator Warren here because she is in fact a graduate of Northwest Classen High School in Oklahoma City and a member of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Please welcome to the stage Senator Elizabeth Warren. Yes, have a seat, have a seat. Well, thank you so much for making time. We know it's
happy to be here.
Crazy, but we come here so we can have these opportunities to visit. And I want to first ask you, of course, I mean, housing. We don't get tired of talking about it. It's been a central focus of our conference for years. We've been advocating for a national response. Tell us from your perspective. You've obviously decided to take this on as high a priority as we have. How do you see the state of the housing crisis and its impact on Americans across the country?
Oh, wow. Housing is so important to individual families, and I feel like everybody in this room knows all of this, that housing is how families build wealth. It is the #1 savings plan in America. #1 retirement plan in America, pay off your house and live on your Social Security. #1 way in America that wealth is transferred from one generation to the next is if you're lucky enough that grandma and grandpa can hang on to the home and then pass it on to the next generation. #1 way that people finance the start of a small business is being able to get a loan against their homes. So homes are just kind of at the center of people's financial lives. And we just don't have enough in America. Where best estimates are about 3 million housing units short of what we need. What do we need more of? Housing for first-time home buyers, housing for renters, housing for seniors, housing for people with disabilities, housing in urban areas, housing in rural areas, housing of all kinds. The role of the federal government, basically forever, has been to say, wow, price of housing is really going up. Can you believe that? And yet, we've only done largely two things. One has been to say, we'll do the financing part, which is really about the banks, but we'll put in the guarantees so people have access to mortgages, so builders have access to loans. And other than that, it was public housing, which largely stopped in the 90s. And so the federal government has been, frankly, quite passive about the housing crisis. So this is a moment not only for the content of what's in this bill, which I'm happy to talk about, but for the very fact that the federal government is getting up and raising a hand and saying, this is a crisis, we need to be here to help our cities and towns.
Yeah, we in some of our meetings that we've had over the last few months on the Hill, people have said to us, we as a Congress don't know how to pass housing bills. Yeah. It's like, it's been decades. We've lost this muscle, so thank you for helping to revive.
Well, it's not only lost the muscle, it's that Congress looks, I've just watched this, as things like, we'll figure out the right answer, and then we'll pass it. And so people would, when you talk about housing, they look for the magic bullet that's going to solve this problem. There isn't a magic bullet. And you know who's taught me that? The mayors. Mm-hmm. It's been the mayors around Massachusetts. I started in with them 10 years ago talking about this problem. And then the Conference of Mayors. It's just been terrific to say what works in Oklahoma City is not what works in Springfield, Massachusetts. What the needs are in Portland, Oregon are not the same as the needs in San Antonio. And so that changes your approach to it to say, instead of here's one way we're going to try to fix this, It's much more how many places can we either remove hurdles or provide incentives to build out supply?
Yeah. So a few minutes ago when we opened this meeting, you witnessed something you rarely see in American politics. Republicans and Democrats stood together at that podium.
That's right.
And, but you are doing that here with Senator Scott. So we love bipartisanship at the U.S. Conference of Mayors because we do it every single day in our cities because we just have to. We got to get things done, and no city is monolithic politically. But then amongst ourselves, we practice it, and we're very diligent in that, and we like to think that we're kind of the last bastion of bipartisanship in the country. But we would love for others to adopt it, and it seems as if you and Senator Scott have definitely taken that to heart on this topic. How did you guys come together?
So it started by talking about the need, how much we need more housing. And Chairman Scott has a really good bill, but it was one idea that would help with opportunity zones. Good idea. I had an idea, something I wanted to do, an innovation fund. But I looked down the dais. We have 25 members of our committee. It's banking, housing, and urban development. And I thought, yeah, Tina's got a good idea. So actually does Rick, and so does. And that's how we began to pull this together. So a lot of the separate pieces in it are bipartisan, but think of it, our housing bill is like a Jenga tower. It's got 40 different sticks in it. And the way to look at them is every stick is a move toward more housing supply. It's all supply side, but they're different from each other and give different opportunities for different cities. And you may end up using 6 or 7 of them, you may end up using 9 or 10, but we came together in a bipartisan way because we were respectful about the fact that what you need may not be what we need, and to try to build off that and build something that will really make a meaningful difference, not just in a couple of places around the country, but all around the country.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you don't like to get into the weeds of policy.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm kidding. This is right in your wheelhouse.
Exactly. Are you suggesting I'm a nerd?
Well, it's that Oklahoma City
yeah,
education.
okay.
It served you well. The Road to Housing Act is, as we've discussed, one of the most consequential pieces of housing legislation we've seen in over a decade. As you just alluded to, it's comprised of dozens of pieces of previously introduced legislation. Can you give us, and I bet you can do it without notes, an overview of the bill? Let's get into the weeds a little.
Okay, all right. So like I said, overview is about supply, but let me just give you some pieces of it. One of them is NEPA. It just reduces the NEPA, how much time it takes and how much paperwork there is on getting your environmental approvals so that you can build residential housing. We're just going to override at the federal level. Another one is manufactured housing. Many of you may know if there's no axle, you can't get access to federal loan guarantees. We're taking that out, which means access to using manufactured housing, even in multifamily and taller units, will now be available because we'll have federally accessible loan dollars for it. There's a provision in it, let me tell you about the Innovation Fund, because I love this, that says to the cities and towns, if you've got a good idea and you can show how it's going to reduce the cost per unit of building in your town, but you need some federal money to help deal with it. So for example, you say, we've got a way we're gonna bring down costs, but it's gonna be a lot of new building. We're gonna need a new elementary school. We're gonna need, the sexy stuff all mayors love. We're gonna need a new sewage treatment plant. We're gonna need other parts of the infrastructure. We're gonna need to do some work revitalizing our downtown. The federal government funds will be available for mayors to be able to tap into that. The restrictions on it are incredibly loose in the sense that they don't tell you you can only do this kind of thing. so long as it's helping advance and you have put out there how you're going to lower the cost of housing units, then we want to be a good partner. How might you do it? Everybody wants to talk about zoning. Maybe that'll be how you do it. Some people want to give up some publicly owned land. That may be a way they do it. Some people may want to change how they do building inspections and how timely they do and how many guarantees they have. So the idea is to work with you on this. Oh, and I want to mention one more because this one is so much fun. Plan books. The idea of having pre-approved plans that builders can look at, and sure, they can make their own decisions on what kind of trim and so on. But the basics are all there and pre-approved. So the approval process is much faster. As we all know, one of the things that drives up costs is the length of time because they've got to pay for the financing in between. So 40 different pieces in this bill. And like I said, some of them may not matter to some of you, but all of them are going to matter in some places. And they all move us toward more housing supply. And here's the very best part about it. I think we've now unlocked the key. And that is, instead of, no, Tim, I only want to do my thing. No, Elizabeth, I only want to do my thing. The key seems to be, you know what? More is more if we're pushing in the place of giving our cities and towns an opportunity to build. And so we like to think of Road to Housing as step one. And I'm already making my list for Road to Housing 2.0. And I want to hear from you all about that.
Well, on this note, we are obviously very hopeful that housing legislation can get passed this year in Congress. It's been reported that President Trump even called you to discuss a variety of issues, including housing. Based on where things stand today, what do you think are the prospects of meaningful housing legislation being passed in this Congress and signed by the president?
So look, I don't have a crystal ball, but everybody understands the need here. You don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican. You don't have to be in Congress to understand how badly we need to bring down the cost of housing. And the only way we're effectively going to do that is by building more housing for a growing population. So President Trump called me a couple of weeks ago, actually called me about credit cards. And while we were on the phone, I said, I never pass up an opportunity to sell. And that is, I said, you know, we have this housing bill. I said, it's Senator Scott's bill, Road to Housing, because that's where it started. And I said, we have gotten this thing through the United States Senate unanimously. Mr. President, unanimously. Everybody has signed off on this. Democrat, Republican, Independent, you got us all. It's hung up over in the House. And we've got a handful of folks over in the House who just won't let the thing through. If we can get that thing knocked loose in the House, it could be law by tomorrow afternoon. So I raised this point with the president. I said, House Republicans, listen to you. The problem is on the Republican side. Democrats are all signed up and ready to go. If we can kick that thing loose in the House, then we'll get the bill passed, the legislation, it's all written, we've got all the details done. President says he wants to sign it into law, so I urge the president to use some of his very great influence with the Republicans in the House of Representatives. I'm hopeful we can get this done. It's a moment in America. We need to show that there are some things we can come together and we can get done to deliver for the American people. And I can think of nothing better to do that on than housing.
Absolutely. So we agree. And yeah.
Good.
So hundreds of mayors are gathered here this week. What can we do to help?
Okay, and one more time. Thank you to all the mayors, including you, David, who were in on giving us ideas, telling us, if you're going to do that thing, here's the part that really is the biggest stumbling block for us. It's enormously helpful to help us get it right. Now is the moment, and you've been terrific in helping us launch it to begin with. You know, most bills die right at the beginning. Nobody pays any attention. Helping us get it through the Senate, now is the moment to get it through the House. And the way to do this is whenever you're talking to your federal representatives, and actually it's true, House and Senate, keep the heat up. Someone wants to say, hello, how are you? Say, hi, I'm worried about housing. And I'm so glad to hear, this is your line, that you have a bill that has already passed the Senate unanimously, and all we need to do is get it through the House. Can you help make that happen? You all could be the ones who could get this thing kicked loose. And if that happens, I'm really serious. That's all it takes. They need one vote in the House. It goes over to the president's desk. He's already offered his blessing to this. We could get this done.
All right.
I'm counting on you.
All right. Well, we'll do our part. Thank you so
Good.
much, Senator.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Senator Warren.
Thank you. Thank you.
So as we were designing this winter meeting, you know, one thing that that really struck me that I thought a lot about was that the real stars, I mean, we're going to bring all these external people, senators and FIFA president and all these folks, but listen, the real stars are the mayors. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of stage time for mayors this week, and also, of course, in all of our 40 breakout sessions that we've got. But I want to just have a few that you've seen probably on the news this year come join us, and let's just chat for a few minutes. And so on your program, I think these are called like Conversations with a Colleague. And so you'll see a few of these pop through the plenaries over the next 3 days. And so I'm kicking off this series here right now. Please welcome to the stage the 46th mayor of the city and county of San Francisco, Daniel Lurie. Mayor?
Mayor, how are you?
Wonderful. Well, maybe, and this is, 10 minutes of your time, Mayor. Thank you for indulging us. But start with just your life in a minute, if you can. Just tell us how you came to be mayor. You're 1 year in now, almost exactly. What was the journey to this point?
Born and raised in San Francisco. My two kids, my wife and I, we have a 14-year-old daughter, an 11-year-old son. They were born on the same floor at the same hospital that I was born at. And I was walking them to school over and over again and seeing people struggling on the streets with addiction, with our homelessness crisis, and I just couldn't explain to them, month after month, year after year, what was happening. I had been running a poverty-fighting organization called Tipping Point Community for 15 years, and I'd never been in elected office, but I saw our city kind of going the wrong way. We lost our way as a city, and I thought we needed somebody from the outside to come in, shake things up, and just focus on getting our city back to common sense policies. And I ran in 24 against the incumbent and a couple of others actually who had been mayors or supervisors. And I think many of you in this room know the story. Like probably 5 people thought I could win, but we ended up winning. And I have to say one thing, and many of you probably agree, I love my job. Like, I love being mayor. It's the idea that I'm mayor of my hometown it's an honor and a privilege, and it is also incredibly hard. I mean, it is like a nonstop roller coaster. I mean, I was talking with Mayor Gloria backstage, and we just had just one of the worst weekends in our country in a very long time. And so dealing with that and trying to keep your people safe, and that is my focus every single day. That is my only focus in terms of my number one priority is public safety. And you go from that one afternoon, and then, for 24 to 36 hours, we had a mountain lion in a park in our city, like in a residential park. So you run the gambit as mayor, unlike anything I've ever experienced.
No day is boring, that's right. So you'd never run before this for anything?
No.
And you're a hometown mayor, which, by the way, I think is worth drilling down on. I'm a hometown mayor as well. Like, I was born and raised in Oklahoma City. I can kind of see the crowd. Raise your hand if you were a mayor who was born in the city or was raised in the city that you are now mayor of. Yeah, I think
All
that's
right.
cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not everybody, but that's a pretty common story, and it kind of adds an extra layer of pride in serving.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come into this role, and you've kind of alluded to it. I have this theory. It seems like American conventional wisdom has to always have a couple cities that they're beating up on. And it seemed like San Francisco was one of those cities fairly recently where there was some real perception issues, and some of it grounded maybe in real challenges, but some of it also probably nonsense, because that's part of it too. But I mean, how have you, I feel like I follow you on social media. I mean, I can see that you've really embraced sort of also the leadership, morale booster, cheerleader role as well. I mean, talk a little bit about just kind of turning around the mentality maybe of the city.
Well, first, I wouldn't have run if those, critiques weren't on point. Obviously, I think it went way overboard, but I would not have run, and I wouldn't have won if people thought things were going well. And I thought what we needed, I mean, first off, no offense, but when San Francisco's at its best, we're the greatest city in the world, and that's
so funny, because there's 200 other greatest cities here in the room right now.
I figured you'd all would appreciate that. I mean, there's no more beautiful city. Like we lost our way, but like it does not take a lot for us to get going in the right direction. And so my principles from day one were public safety, number one priority. Second was the behavioral health crisis on our streets. And getting people off the street and into recovery and into treatment, and stop saying, oh, you can use openly in front of our kids going to school. Because that is where we were as a city. We were like just allowing people to wither away and die on our streets. I told the senator backstage, 3 years ago in San Francisco, we had over 800 people die of overdose on our streets and in our SROs. And that number has come down, but it's still 600 plus this past year. We have a real issue on that front. And then we have to strip away the bureaucracy. We have to make it easier to build housing. We have to make it easier for our small businesses. So those three, I just focus on that every day in terms of policy making. But then we got to get our shoulder and our pride back up. And we've done that in this past year. When I took office, 28%, or when I was elected, 28% of San Franciscans thought we were heading in the right direction. That number today is 69% of San Franciscans think we're heading in the right direction. So like there is,
that's important.
There is that, and I'm always out on Instagram talking. People say I'll go to the opening of a drawer. But like I think our small businesses, our restaurants, you and I know you love your restaurants, like celebrating our small business owners who are doing really hard work every day and talking about our great food, talking about our great arts and culture scene. Like, I think that's what people want to see about their city and see the good things.
Yeah. Let's drill down, you've alluded to it, but maybe get more in the weeds on how you've addressed fentanyl and the culture of open-air drug markets, because that certainly is a challenge in lots of places. Maybe get into the policy there a little bit.
Well, I think it's got to be tone, too, which is you are not coming to San Francisco to deal drugs or to do drugs and just get away with it anymore. Like, we are going to hold you accountable. We have a great district attorney. She's prosecuting. Our SFPD is doing incredible work. Our sheriff's department is working hard every day. Like in this spring, we're starting something called a reset center that is happening in a couple places, including in Arizona. I'm not sure what city. If you're here, let me know. Where if you are using openly, we are going to arrest you. We're going to bring you to this reset center where you can detox, and then we'll give you a path towards treatment. And so you'll have a choice of treatment or arrest. Today, I walk the streets every morning after I drop my son off at school, and I see the same people using every day, and we try to get them off, or we don't have enough treatment or recovery beds. We just can't tolerate that, and people are dying. And then when it comes to those dealing drugs, like, we have sent out a clear message that we're coming after you. We've made thousands and thousands of arrests. We've taken off like 60 pounds of fentanyl off our streets. Our downtown core is coming back. Our downtown core crime was down this past year 40%. It was down 30% citywide. So we're starting and we get to show that off next week for Super Bowl, which is coming to our city and to our region, just back to basics and back to common sense.
Yeah. We've talked about it a little bit. You're really good at social media, or I don't know, maybe your team is. I don't know. Maybe you take some personal pride in this, but.
No, my team's awesome. I don't know what I'm doing. I just turn the film.
Well,
on.
you've got the Riz, as the kids say, I guess. So, any tips on social media for our audience here?
Oh, I think you just kind of. First off, I was a decent student in school. Never like wonky. And I've been called a nerdy dad more than anyone. I didn't know I was a nerd, but that's, I guess, the vibes I give off on social media. I think you got to be true to yourself and not try to do, if you like what someone else is doing, don't try to go do that. Just be yourself and for me, it's about our businesses and our culture and just showing off what's great about San Francisco. So people will be like, oh, I got to go check that place
So
out.
authenticity. I think that's something that social media can be used for. Sometimes it's not, but you do a lot of videos that are you talking. So, I think that's.
Yeah, no, and I also ask a lot of questions of our business. I just asked Mayor Gloria backstage, I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I not in San Francisco? Why am I in DC? And he explained that we're here to all talk about housing and how do we, as mayors, tell the federal government, we need to get more housing built. And I was like, okay, I think the people of San Francisco will understand that.
Toughest day as mayor so far, you're 1 year in.
We had a horrific murder of a social worker at our hospital by a patient who came in, and being there with the family and with his colleagues afterwards and in the hours after. When there's an attack on people that are taking care of our most vulnerable, and you feel like you weren't able to, take care of that person, you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah. Favorite day as mayor so far?
I haven't had that question. I like all my, if I get to walk the street and I see the problems. So my dad called me the other day. He's like, I saw you not being able to go down a street and people are stopping you. He's like, that's not normal. I was like, I know, but you didn't see the part where people are heckling me and yelling at me and saying all the bad things. I think what I love about my job is I see everything every day. I see what our biggest struggles with those folks struggling with addiction on our street that we have to do better. And then I get to see these small business owners getting excited and thriving and doing well, and our city coming back. Favorite, I don't know. I love my day.
You love your job.
I love my job.
Every day is your favorite day. Yeah. Tomorrow will be your favorite day. So.
I think so. I hope so.
Hey, thank you so much. Let's hear it from Mayor Lurie. Thank you for this.
Good to see you. Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg Philanthropies' Carrie Bishop.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's great to see everybody here. The Bloomberg Philanthropies Government Innovation Team core mission is to solve City Hall's biggest pressure points and create space for innovation in City Halls and help you solve your problems. We do that through our programs. We have our City Innovation Challenges, including our I-Teams, our Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative. We also have a data and innovation portfolio, which I lead, and our Mayor's Challenge. Many of you are familiar with these programs. We do this in a number of ways, and it's really inspired by the work of Mike Bloomberg, who believes that you as mayors have the power to create better, longer lives for your residents. Many of you are on speed dial with our leader, Jim Anderson, who leads the government innovation team. And he's been championing this work for over a decade. Many of you also know Manny Diaz, Bloomberg Philanthropies board member, who's also in the room with us today. What I want to talk about today is something I'm going to get very excited about, is the power of data and AI to impact city halls. First, I'm going to talk about what it is that are the success factors for cities implementing data and AI. I'm also going to talk about where cities are at with data and AI in their journeys. And I'm going to give you some examples from around the world of great work that we see happening. So this is where cities are at right now. Much of this will be familiar to you, and I know many of the cities in this room are implementing their projects. This work doesn't just include things like the implementation and access to ChatGPT or Gemini or tools that you're allowing your staff to use. It also includes implementations in specific areas. For example, city operations and governance are kind of one of the biggest areas that we're seeing growing. This is taken from a data set over 160 use cases from cities in our network. The city operations and governance work is things like report writing, summarizing minutes, doing grant applications, things that are helping speed things up in your city halls. We're also seeing a lot around predictive analytics for the built environment, whether it's air quality, whether it's traffic systems, all of that is coming together now. We also see point to human services and social services in the work of data and AI. And what's interesting about that is a lot of that's coming from our Latin American cities who have the responsibility for delivering social services and health services to their residents. And then we also see some use cases around public safety, be that gunshot detection, be that body cam reporting. But that's the tech. So what are the success factors that are making this work? Well, it might surprise you to know that actually it's not about the tech at all. It's about how you create the environment in your city halls. So I'm going to go through each of these and share an example of how we see this working around the world. The first is about you. It's about your role as a champion in this work. The most successful cities have a mayor who understands the importance of data and AI and is creating the permission space for their teams to start using this technology. Mayors who talk about this work publicly and are willing to share the lessons learned and who are promoting the work of their teams. Mayor Paes in Rio de Janeiro is doing just that. He's talking publicly about this incredible project that they're doing to give the technology in the hands of the health workers who are out there day to day talking to residents, to pair that with AI and to use WhatsApp as a way of tailoring services to residents so that they have City Hall in their pocket. The next thing you need is an empowered senior leader. It's great if you can create the space as mayors to help your staff understand that this is a priority for you, but you need somebody empowered on the ground with your teams, helping them make that happen and ensuring that delivery is happening well. It needs to be somebody who can make decisions, somebody who can bring departments together, and somebody who understands the tech. I'm not here to tell you that every city needs a chief AI officer. In fact, in South Bend, the chief innovation officer played that role, bringing together departments to help reinvent 311. This project is about being predictive and proactive, pairing AI with real outreach on the ground with residents to help anticipate what needs might be. For example, if you see somebody who in the data might be at risk of missing a utility bill payment, how can you get ahead of that and stop that from becoming a crisis so that it doesn't become then more work for the city to solve? The third success factor is a spirit of experimentation. This is brand new technology. I know it's been around for a while and we've been talking about it for a while, but really, we're still so early on in the journey of this technology. It's exciting what's to come, but we don't know what it's good for yet and what it's not good for, and the pace of change is exponential. So you need to empower your teams to create the space to learn those lessons and test things in a safe environment. That way you're de-risking the technology before it gets deployed at scale. Washington, D.C. is working right here, right where we are right now, is working with the city, with the Bloomberg Center for Government Excellence at Johns Hopkins University and their team of experts to figure out whether it's possible to pair city website data with AI so that a resident can apply for a permit or a license in D.C., all staying within their own version of ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever tool they use. This is quite an innovation in terms of where cities are at, and it's a prototype. We're testing this idea out to see if this is something that could scale in DC, but beyond as well. And to that point, because this technology is new, I have heard lots of cities, and many of you express concerns about the risks and the ethics of using AI, and it's completely valid. We should be thinking about these things. But what I also see is many cities creating huge committee structures, and by the time they've written the terms of reference for the committee, the technology's changed, and the committee needs to change as well. The most successful cities and the mayors that really get it are the ones who are taking a minimum viable governance approach. Those are cities where they're light on committees, but they are heavy on prototyping and testing and learning those lessons. The city of Bogota, Colombia, for example, the mayor had a problem. He knew that children were falling through the cracks of their social care system, but wasn't sure how to predict who that would be. By bringing together social workers and the technical team, they got together and figured out how to combine data from lots of different sources across the city, pull that all together, and be able to predict which children were most at risk of malnutrition. By doing that, they were able to also have the right people in the room to make the decisions about what they should do with children's data and how they can keep it private, and anticipate what risks might come up and put things in place to mitigate that. That is what I mean by minimum viable governance. It's tied to a use case, and it's done just in time for the technology. And the fifth success factor, which I personally think is the most important determinant. You can have the best tech in the world, but it means nothing if you aren't engaging deeply with your residents and understanding their problems. I think mayors know how to do this instinctively, and I know many of you are doing that all the time. But bringing those lessons, bringing those insights back into the organization as you're doing your rounds in your communities is critical, because understanding the real problems that residents have from their perspective and letting them tell their stories is essential. The city of Austin has a bold ambition to be the best place in the US to be a kid. They're doing that by deeply engaging with their youth council to understand from their perspective what are the opportunities but also the barriers to accessing services, and how might they pair that with AI to solve some of these problems. At times, data work is not the most glamorous thing. It doesn't always make the press release when you have two departments together in a meeting discussing how to define a household. That doesn't really make it to the press. But what does make it to the press are the impact of getting those things right. Those are the things that really make the difference in data work. And it is a difference between guessing and governing. Wherever you are in your journey, as a city, some of you just starting out to use data, some of you more advanced, we have a program that can support you, whether it be our City Data Alliance, which is an annual cohort of mayors who really understand the value of data and want to work on a real project and strategy at the same time. We'll be recruiting for that in the spring, by the way, just in case you're interested. We also have What Works Cities certification, which many of you in the room are certified as What Works Cities, and that can really help you get started on your data journey. We also have City AI Connect, which is an online community where for your city staff, where they can talk about the challenges that they're seeing and the things that are coming around. So if any of that is of interest to you, wherever you are on your data journey, please get in touch with me and we can do this journey together. Thank you.
Please welcome Omaha Mayor John Ewing Jr., Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer, and our moderator, Conference President David Holt.
Thank you for responding to these constant exhortations to give me applause. There's only 2 or 3 more of those in this particular plenary. So this is kind of another chat with a colleague here, but in this case, we're going to be pretty focused almost exclusively on public safety because we have 2 mayors here with really their careers are in law enforcement. This is a hobby they've taken on late in life to serve as mayors of their cities. So maybe run through that history real quick for each of you. We'll just go in alphabetical order. Mayor Dyer of Fresno, please remind us your illustrious career in law enforcement.
Sure. I spent 40 years and 5 months in the Fresno Police Department.
But who's counting? 5 months.
Who's counting? 5 months and 1 day. And the last 18 years I spent as a police chief. And then thought I was going to retire and travel and spend time with my wife and grandkids, but God had a different plan. And so I ran for mayor, and so I'm in my 2nd term as the Fresno mayor.
Yeah. And Mayor Ewing, you just got elected.
Yes.
Like, what was it, 6 months ago or something?
7 months
7
ago.
months, but who's counting, right? Yeah. But what's your background in law enforcement?
Sure. I was with the Omaha Police Department for 24 years, 9 months, 1 day, and 7 minutes. And I actually retired as a deputy chief after winning an election to Douglas County Treasurer, and I was the Douglas County Treasurer for 18 and a half years, re-elected 4 times.
Yeah, very good. And if she had made it, she's going to be here later, but she couldn't make it for this morning. But it's worth noting Mayor Castor of Tampa is also a former career law enforcement and police chief in Tampa. Okay, so Mayor Dyer, you've been obviously part of our leadership here at the conference for several years, and so you've been very much a part of these conversations we've been having and are bragging that, crime rates are plummeting across the country. Maybe we'll come to Fresno in a minute, but maybe keep it at a national level for a moment. Why do you think that is? I mean, and everybody's got theories. Why do you think that we're seeing those declines across the country?
Well, what I've seen over the years is that crime is very cyclical, and there's no one reason why crime is up or one reason why crime is down. But what I do know is in 2020, we had a lot of things go on in the nation, one of those being the pandemic, the other being the George Floyd incident. As a result of that, the world kind of went mad. And we had civil unrest in communities across the country. Shootings went up, violent crime went up. And so what we're doing today is comparing to those numbers in 2020, 2021. And so we have seen a steady decline. Auto theft nationally has plummeted. Murder rates are plummeted. I know in Fresno we had a 51-year low in murders this year.
Yeah. So let's hear that. But to your point, that's 51 years. That's not back to 2020.
No.
That's half a century.
And that is absolutely true. I'll tell you, in 2020 we had 732 shootings in our city. This last year we had 162. Still 162 too many. But we went from 74 murders in 2020 and 2021 each year. And this last year we had 22 murders. So, but we're seeing it across the nation. LA, I think, had a 53-year low in homicide. So cities are enjoying those crime reductions. A lot of great strategies, technology that's occurred, much more community engagement. I can't overlook the fact that we're starting to focus on getting young people more attention, getting them employed, educated, and all of those things I think collectively are contributing to reductions in both violent crime and property crime across our nation.
I'm going to come back to that last point, which I think is really important about sort of crime prevention and intervention. But let's first come to you, Mayor Ewing, and let's talk about Omaha 360. You have a very intentional, branded, multi-year effort that has brought the rates down in Omaha and is actually now, it sounds like, being adopted and looked at by cities around the country, maybe even some in the room. So tell us what's Omaha 360.
Sure. We started Omaha 360 about 20 years ago when I was still a deputy chief with the Omaha Police Department. And what it is a concentrated effort to bring all of the professionals in criminal justice together along with the community. We have a weekly meeting and with the citizens of Omaha as well, and we talk about the issues that are facing the community, and we actually engage the community in how we're going to do policing in the city of Omaha. One of the things we've always focused on over the last 20, 25 years is community policing. A lot of people think that is soft on crime, but what it really allows you to do is partner with your community to address violent crime, to address property crimes, and we've seen all-time lows for the city of Omaha in terms of homicide as well as gun violence. We have about a 50% reduction in homicides going back to some of our highest numbers in 2007, 2008. We have about an 80% reduction in gun violence, and that is because we've been able to work with the community. And one of the ways you can see if your police and community organizations are working together is looking at your crime stats and your rate of solving crimes. Our clearance rate for homicides for the last 3 consecutive years has been 100%. So we have a tremendous partnership with our community.
And some cities, what are some of the cities?
Sure.
If you remember off the top of
We
your head?
have partnerships with Kansas City. They've seen about a 30% reduction in homicide rate. We also have a partnership with New Orleans, which has had about a 50% reduction, as well as Lansing, Michigan, and Syracuse, New York, and a few other cities are looking to become partners with the city of Omaha. We've had approximately 50 cities from across the country wanting to know what we do. One of the things I'll say, though, is not just about law enforcement or the criminal justice system. It's about looking at the fact that homicide, violence, that's a symptom, and there are root causes. And so what we focused on as well is youth employment. We actually started a program called Step Up, which is our summer jobs program. We started that out of our pocket about 20 years ago. And now we employ about 1,000 young people a year, and that's helped reduce our crime rates as well. As we get young people engaged in productive activities, we focus on housing and education and other things that actually are the root causes of violence and hopelessness.
Well said. Mayor Dyer, I made you stay kind of on the national level a minute ago. Tell us more about what you're specifically doing in Fresno right now.
Sure. I would say 2 things that we're doing. You know, everyone has a different definition of what community safety is. For some, it's violent crime reductions. For some, it's property crime reduction. For others, it's quality of life issues. It's seeing, what's out in front of your store, a homeless person who may have a tent set up, or God forbid, they're defecating or urinating on your property. So we launched what was called Project Off-Ramp. We had, when I became the mayor, about 650 homeless folks, unsheltered, living on our freeway embankments in Fresno. And so we at that time didn't have one single emergency shelter bed that we oversaw as a city. We purchased 9 hotels. We converted those into emergency shelter. We partnered with different nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, Poverello House, Fresno Mission, and they provide the services. And so we not only got all of those people off of the freeway into shelter, into permanent housing, but we've done that throughout the city. In fact, over the last 5 years, we have now placed over 11,000 people into emergency shelter. And proud to say that 54% of those have gone on to permanent housing. And 2 years later, 73% of them remain in permanent housing. So dealing with that quality of life issue in our city, we still have work to do, but we don't have homeless people on our freeway. We don't have any encampments in our city. And so that's very important. And I'd say the other thing is, people don't just become homeless. They're not born homeless.
Right.
They evolve into that through a series of issues in their life, whether it's alcohol addiction, mental health addiction. Our officers respond to 1,000 calls a week with individuals that are unsheltered, people that are facing mental health challenges. So you have to address those at the front end. We too have launched what's called the Youth Jobs Corps program, where we intentionally hire folks in our community between the ages of 18 and 30 that have been touched by the criminal justice system, have some type of mental health issue, perhaps they're addicted to drugs, timing out of the foster youth program, and we hire those for city employment. We've now hired over 560 of those in the last 3 years, and they are either generally part-time, and then we transition them into other work in the private sector. And but those individuals, I can tell you, many of them, not only the first time they've had a job in their life, the first one in their entire family to have a job. And so we give them the experience, the training. We remove all of the barriers to employment. We provide free childcare, free transportation, training, clothing, all the things that they need in order to be successful. And I got to believe that those folks may have been heading down the path into the criminal justice system, and today they're on a more productive path in life.
Well, you guys have both covered a lot of things that are very much in the area of prevention and intervention. And so let me share kind of my layperson's observation of being mayor for 8 years. I get an email every time someone's murdered in Oklahoma City. It's the same email, I think, that goes to the media. And if you don't get that email, you need to sign up for that, because your city probably has something where they're sharing that information with the media. And you guys have been getting those emails for 50 years. So what's interesting to me as I kind of read those over the course of 8 years, it's a very simple and obvious observation, but it actually kind of flies in the face of a lot of conventional wisdom by the general public. And that is that all the narratives about all the homicides in my city, and I suspect this is largely true across the entire United States, paint a picture of people who knew each other in non-public places, right? I mean, people think of crime and homicides like they saw in Batman or something, you know, but the reality is that murders are being committed in living rooms and driveways between people who either have known each other for a very long time or maybe only knew each other for about 30 minutes, but it wasn't indiscriminate, you know?
That's right.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't random and out in the middle of your entertainment district, usually. So what that tells you is you can't have enough police officers to be in everybody's living room.
Exactly.
And so, yes, like law enforcement plays a role, and you've got to have, you know, a robust department, but it is only part of the equation of reducing your crime and your violence and your homicides. And so you've talked a lot about that, but I'm curious, I guess, what I want to get at with this is, as you've moved from law enforcement to mayor, now it's like you also are transitioning your area of influence, whereas you were focused on, for the most part, in law enforcement, kind of at the end of this spectrum. Now as mayor, you're getting to work on youth programs and other things, and you're making those interventions that might stop a homicide that was going to happen 5 years from now.
Right.
And now it never will.
Absolutely.
And maybe Mayor Ewing, talk a little bit about how being mayor is giving you this interesting new opportunity to work kind of on this intervention and prevention piece.
I was very fortunate in my career in the police department that I worked in the crime prevention unit for a number of years. So I saw the opportunity when I became a deputy chief to actually look at this differently, because I don't believe you can have enough police officers to solve the issues that our community faces. In Omaha, for instance, in 2025, we only had 6 homicides that were not somehow family related or DV related. So that is not the issue. The issue is, how do we provide the services to families? How do we provide the services to individuals so that we can keep them from getting involved in dangerous situations and creating violence in their families? Because that's where the real violence is occurring.
Yeah.
So, Mayor Dyer?
Yeah, you know, when I became the mayor, I did not want to be seen as a police chief trying to be the mayor. I wanted to be seen as the mayor who happened to have been a police chief. And, you know, I think I've been able to accomplish that, but the job does that to you. I spent 40 years in law enforcement chasing the symptom of really of crime in our society. And now as the mayor, I get to focus more on a holistic approach. And that is making sure that there are housing security for kids. We know that kids that grow up in the same home, in the same neighborhood, go to the same schools, hang out with the same friends, they're going to have a much more likelihood of succeeding in life and in school. So I get to focus on housing security, food security, all those things that allow for intervention and prevention in the young child's life. And as a police chief, I didn't have that opportunity. There was an expectation that I would reduce violent crime and property crimes, and that's what we focused on. And my other role as a chief is to make sure that the police department has the resources that they need and the technology to be able to keep crime under control in our city. And so I really try to stay focused on that. Very little involvement in the police department in terms of strategies and so forth. People thought that's what was going to be. I was going to be the helicopter dad over the police department. But I really haven't been, and quite frankly, I don't have time to even engage in police department. I have a great police chief, and the first female police chief in our history that I appointed. And she's doing an incredible job, and so I just make sure I give them the resources they need and focus on those things that mayors should be focused on. And that is making sure we're addressing homelessness, housing, food security, job creation, all those things that I believe ultimately will make our city better and reduce crime over the long haul.
Yeah, in OKC, we're building a family justice center.
Yes.
We're building youth centers, and we think that's just as much, but that's the kind of stuff mayors work on, but I feel like
Absolutely.
I'm just as much working on the issue of crime prevention as I am when I'm trying to get more police officers.
Yeah.
So.
Green space, recreation,
Yeah,
all those things are
absolutely.
important.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to have a major parks initiative in Omaha because we believe that's going to be more beneficial to us than arresting young people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your leadership in your cities and on the national level. And all mayors, please recognize you have these amazing resources in your ranks who have this great perspective, both on law enforcement and the role of a mayor in that. So thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think off that way. All right. Well, now we're going to have another conversation with a colleague. It's somebody we know very well who has hosted us here for 12 years in Washington, D.C. for our annual winter meeting. While many of us had to brave a blizzard to get here, I actually went to the Oklahoma City airport 3 times in 16 hours before I finally was able to get out and get here to D.C. This mayor just had to drive a few blocks, one of the perks of being mayor of our nation's capital. A lifelong D.C. resident, she has served as mayor since 2015, is the first African-American woman elected to 3 4-year terms as mayor of any American city. And after announcing that she won't seek re-election, she's promised to run through the tape and keep winning for D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is always very gracious to arrange our Welcome to Washington receptions during these winter meetings at one of the many embassies in her city. Tomorrow night, we will be hosted at the Embassy of the Republic of Singapore. So we have her to thank for that, as well as all of the hospitality that we always enjoy here. Please join me in welcoming District of Columbia Mayor Muriel Bowser. Hey, Mayor, thank you. Have a seat. You know, earlier I introduced Mayor Luria. He's a city and county mayor. You might be the only district mayor in the entire United States, I think. That's a fair statement?
Sort of, because we're unique in
sure.
D.C. for sure, but that means I am the mayor, the county executive, and the governor, and sometimes
like
2
that.
senators of Washington,
That's
D.C.
right.
Yes.
Well, okay, so as I said, this is your final annual meeting here in D.C. to host us. And you always provide certain warm words of welcome. I wanted you to certainly have that platform.
Well,
to
thank
welcome
you.
us.
And you mentioned when I became mayor back in 2015 and I became active with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, I realized that we welcomed mayors from all around the country to D.C., and D.C. had a very small role in the process. And I talked to Tom and I said, we want to make sure we're welcoming mayors, that we're being supportive of the conference. When mayors are here, if there are agencies or discussions that we can promote, we want to do that. And we tapped into our diplomatic corps. One special thing about coming to Washington is you can visit the world by going to different embassies. And each year since, we've had an ambassador host us at their residence. And this year, we'll be at the residence for Singapore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this has been amazing. If anybody's coming for the first time, don't miss this opportunity, because all of these residences that we have visited over the last few years are so fascinating and cool.
Yes, and each of the ambassadors, I learned early on, they have a job to do in the U.S., and part of that job is meeting mayors and visiting American cities and promoting their nation's interests all across America. So coming to this conference helps them, and it helps us.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your legacy. I know you're running through the tape, and
Yes,
we're not necessarily you're not quite ready for a retrospective, but we want to provide our mayors a little inspiration for your story here over these last 11 or 12 years. And by the way, this is the only other city other than Oklahoma City that I've ever lived in. I lived here for 7 years, going to college at GW and working afterwards. And obviously, people from around the country have often lived here, or at the very least have visited here many, 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 many times, sometimes if they have any engagement. So you have a very unique city in that respect. One thing that you've worked a lot on, and it's near and dear to my heart, is sports.
Yes.
In fact, recently the Sports Business Journal had a cover story with 3 mayors on it, Mayor Ginther of Columbus, you, and me. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. Talk a little bit about the power of sports and kind of some of the initiatives that you've been right in the middle of.
Well, part of my job in D.C. is to make sure people know that people live here, have businesses here, pay taxes here, that we take care of ourselves, and that we are more than a political economy, that we are a sports and hospitality economy. And in fact, it's very important to our bottom line. So we're a city of 700,000 people, about $20 billion in revenue each year, and hospitality is a huge part of that. I heard you talking to other mayors earlier about the impact of COVID. And the impact, we're still feeling it. We're still feeling the tails of it. Remote work had a very negative impact on our commercial corridor, especially in the downtown. And I have felt strongly in all these 11 years of how important sports was to our civic identity and economy. But post-COVID, it became even more important as a way that we shift our economy and really double down on entertainment. So, I think I'll be known as a sports mayor because we have built a soccer stadium in my tenure. We saved
your MLS team plays.
MLS team.
I've been to a game there.
And the Washington Spirit, who just signed, the highest paid woman in pro soccer, in Trinity Rodman. So we're very excited about that, the Washington Spirit. We had a lot of people ask me about, we had 2 of our sports teams wanted to leave D.C. and go to Virginia. No offense to Virginia, but it's not the best city in the world. Ours is. And, oh, there's my friend. Yeah, we had this conversation. But anyway, we were able to keep our teams, our pro basketball team, our women's basketball team, and our hockey team in D.C. and invest in an $800 million downtown renovation. Mm-hmm. So we bucked a trend of sports teams leaving cities for the suburbs, and we maintain that real activator and destination in the downtown. big story around it, how we did it, and I'm really proud that we were able to save those jobs for DC.
Well, and not just saving them from those teams from relocating to the suburbs, but you might be clawing one back as well.
No, I'm definitely on one back. And we are very proud that our football team, who left DC about 30 years ago, is coming back home. So the Washington Commanders will play in Washington again by 2030. Again, it is a job creator. It allows us to activate 180 acres on the Anacostia River. It's a big legislative win for us in clawing back land from the federal government, but also a win for us in working with a really great franchise. So part of what I'm running through the tape on is making sure that that deal and construction has started and we break ground.
Very good, very good. Well, DC, let's move away from sports. DC is beautiful. The city is clean, your parks are beautiful. I think your downtown is certainly recovering from COVID. I know that you said there's a long tail there, but I think we're seeing a lot of the activity. What do you see, whether it's the infrastructure, the beauty, the business growth, the events, the sports, what are you just most proud of? What are you going to, when you walk away from City Hall here in a few months, what are you really going to be most proud of?
Well, there are too many things, and all of us will have the experience that I'm having now of saying goodbye and doing a job that you've loved, you've been well suited for, and I have the privilege of having, of doing it on my terms, and having a year to really talk to people about what's important in each community, what's important in each industry. I will be very proud of the work that we've done in housing, and I think when I started this job, it was the single most important issue. How do we keep DC affordable? And now, fast forward, that's all anybody's talking about again. How do we keep American cities affordable? And we are a city, I like to think of us as amenity rich, and our residents are willing to pay for those amenities, from great schools, universal pre-K that we've had in DC for 10 years, #1 park system in America, great transit system. But it also means that our housing costs have been very high compared to other regions in the nation. So we set out to build 36,000 new units in 5 years, 12,000 of which are below market. And that is the only way that you keep housing costs low or lower, or buck the trend of rising rents, is to build more housing. And we've been able to do that in DC. We have met our goals, and not just in one area, but we set planning goals around the whole city. And one thing that we've celebrated in the last couple of weeks, one of my areas that sometimes is accused of not wanting things in their backyard, we have proposed the first affordable housing project on public land in that planning area. It is going to be a very important signal to the rest of the city that we get that done. And then we're doing new things, like in our downtown, of converting underutilized office into housing. And right now, I think per capita, we're doing more office to residential conversion than any jurisdiction in the nation. And I think we're doing that with some pretty innovative tools. And because you're so familiar with DC, you know all the federal buildings that were really built for a couple of reasons. Federal workers, and to display the grandeur of our nation and the strength of our democracy. And sadly, there are not many workers in many of those buildings now. And so what we are in partnership with the administration and doing is thinking about how we can remake whole parts of our downtown and not have those empty federal buildings, but have places for people to live and better connections from our tourist areas to the rest of the city. So those are the things that are going to keep us busy for the next 12 months.
Well, Mayor Bowser, you have been a great leader in organization, a wonderful host, a great friend to all of us. Let's show our gratitude to Mayor
Thank
Bowser.
you. Thank you, Mayor.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
mayors.
much.
Please welcome the CEO and Executive Director of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Tom Cochran.
I welcome you to the 94th winter meeting, and to let you know this is my 57th. We gather here today 1 year after the second term of the Trump administration. There's no doubt about it, 2025 was a year of challenges and changes. And recent federal actions during this past year has not deterred each mayor from doing his or her best to make sure that your cities are safe, the economic viability is strong, and yes, you laugh with your people, and sometimes you wipe away the tears. While Washington is in somewhat disarray, we're very pleased with the progress that we're making on housing. We thank Mayor Andy Ginther, who last year said housing was our top priority. And you've heard the bipartisan representation today of Senator Scott and Senator Warren coming together on housing. We seek a partnership with the Trump administration on housing. We seek a partnership, and we hope we'll get it. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stand here today without expressing concern and support for the mayors of Minnesota. We are pleased that they are here today, and we have joined with the Major Chiefs Police Association to express concern, and we're also pleased that our president, on behalf of our organization, has expressed concern concerning the two protesters that were killed in Minneapolis. And we trust the recent communications between the president and the governor and Mayor Fry and others that we will soon have peace. General George Washington, after the Revolutionary War, got on his knees and he said, "I now make it my earnest prayer that God would have the United States in his holy protection." And today it is our fervent prayer that God would have Minnesota in his holy protection. So ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased that we have our president, Mayor David Holt, through this political turbulence. Last year in Oklahoma City, he stood in front of the memorial in Oklahoma City, which was the site of the most devastating and violent deaths we've ever had for domestic terrorism. And the mayors of this organization signed a strong statement against political violence. And so I'm very pleased to also inform you that the ADL presented to Mayor Holt their Leadership Award for Democracy. And on February the 2nd, he will go to Knoxville, Tennessee to receive the inaugural recipient of the Howard Baker Award for his stand on political violence. He's done a lot, but let's roll the tape and show you some other things that he's been doing. Thank you.
Mayors have long been America's greatest leaders. Mayors get things done. We think that's an area of bipartisan consensus. Like, that's something everybody wants across the political spectrum. Republicans and Democrats want more affordable housing. Obviously, we don't necessarily, as yet, have any particular traction with the administration, but we're seeing it in Congress, and we'll build from there. We've got a nearly century-long history with the Conference of Mayors, and we have been significant contributors to major legislative successes through the years.
The U.S. Conference of Mayors is calling on the need for action from Washington on SNAP benefits. They're saying it's urgent.
The American people need these SNAP benefits, and they need their federal government to reopen. And today, we're also sort of America's great hope. To really fulfill the promise of this country, we owe it to everybody to have the same opportunity. We are optimistic, we are unifying, we are visionary. We started our morning with a visit to the Oklahoma City National Memorial, site of the deadliest act of American political violence in living memory. At the site, we signed what we are calling the Oklahoma City Declaration. We may be the last serious people left in American politics. We are simultaneously idealistic and pragmatic. In our daily work, we rely upon old-fashioned but proven democratic ideals of pluralism and compromise. I accept this award on behalf of hundreds of mayors who are doing this work every day across this country. Mayors are unique among American political leaders right now. We work across partisan lines. We reject extremism in all its forms. We engage in democracy the way it was practiced for 2 centuries. And at the end of the day, every day, we get things done. Mayors are the modern protectors of the American experiment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 83rd President of the United States Conference of Mayors, Mayor David Holt.
Thank you, Tom. Hey, stay close. Don't go away. Just stay right around the corner. I'm gonna need you in a minute, okay? Don't go too far. Well, thank you, Tom. This is, as we conclude the morning plenary, this is sort of the moment in our winter meeting where I give a bit of a State of the City address, but for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So I said last June in my remarks in Tampa when I was installed as president that this organization serves at least 4 distinct purposes, and in no particular order. That's 1, advocacy; 2, access; 3, information and best practices; and 4, collegiality and culture. I'm going to touch on each of those things briefly, but let me first express appreciation for the internal infrastructure that delivers all of those things, as well as some internal updates about our 94-year-old organization. First of all, if you've been here since the beginning, you saw them earlier, thank you to Vice President Todd Gloria and Second Vice President Lyrian Gaylor Baird. They will be your next 2 presidents, and they will do a terrific job. They're already doing terrific jobs as officers of this organization. Let me also thank the Executive Committee. The Executive Committee is comprised of the aforementioned officers, as well as the former presidents and the trustees. So that includes Mayors Ginther, Sheevey, Barnett, Couts, Bibb, Bolwaj, Castor, Cognetti, Joy Cooper, Jerry Dyer, Gallego, Keller, Mitchell, Piraval, Reed, Rickenman, Ross, and Warren. Our Executive Committee met yesterday and had dinner afterwards, and the Executive Committee has never been more engaged. I also want to thank the 26 advisory board members, as well as all the committee and task force and alliance chairs and vice chairs. All told, there are over 100 mayors who serve in a leadership role in this organization, and they are all contributing in meaningful ways, as is every member of this organization. The organization is healthy in every way. We have approximately 500 dues-paying members now, which is tremendous, and we have a balanced budget with a very healthy reserve. As you know, we adopted our first set of bylaws this past summer. It only took 93 years, but that's been very helpful. And we are in the process of adopting minor constitutional updates. You should have actually been approached about that when you picked up your registration for this meeting. I beg you to please cast your votes in the USCM mobile app if you haven't already, so we can complete that task of adopting very minor updates to our Constitution. Don't make me call you. Of course, we remain well served by the staff of the organization, led by CEO and Executive Director Tom Cochran. And since we last gathered in Tampa, Tom announced that in 2.5 years from now, he will step down from that role after more than half a century of service to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. This is our first time all together in person since that announcement. Tom is still very much on the job, and today is certainly not his farewell, and we'll have more opportunities for this, but it does seem appropriate as we are here together and after his announcement to personally show our appreciation for his service. Tom, come back out here. I hope you didn't go away. Tom Cochran. Tom Cochran. American icon, yes. This is not your farewell, but it is a show of love for all that you've done.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Tom. Thank you. Tom and his team recently led the renovation of our Conference of Mayors offices, and the executive committee met there yesterday. Our offices are at 1620 I Street Northwest, just a half a mile from here and just a block from the White House. There is a decent chance you've never been there. So this is our invitation. There was a picture a second ago. The offices are fully renovated and are built for you. There are phone booths, cubicles, and conference rooms available for you, and they have even put a reservation system in the USCM mobile app. So moving forward, please consider the U.S. Conference of Mayors headquarters at 1620 I Street Northwest your embassy in Washington. That is a new benefit of your membership. So that leadership team of mayors, Tom and his staff, are the infrastructure that makes all the rest of this possible. Now let me return then to the four legs of the Conference of Mayors stool: advocacy, access, information and best practices, and collegiality and culture. Our advocacy is on display this week. That's why we're here in Washington. That's what we just experienced, sitting down with Senator Warren. And by the way, please join me at 11:45 a.m. for our opening press conference in Salon 12 on level M2. That's in your agenda, Salon 12, level M2 for the opening press conference. We want to show up strong as we advocate to the media here in the nation's capital. Also on display this week is our access. We're going to hear this week from a host of business and nonprofit leaders: Senators Slotkin, Warren and Scott, mayors from Japan and Ukraine, officials from the DOT and Amtrak and the NEA, Ryan Zimmerman from MLB, NBA All-Star Trae Young, and FIFA President Giovanni Infantino. And in 2 weeks, at our leadership meeting in LA, we'll meet with the leaders of the LA 28 Olympics at their headquarters and officials with the NBA at their All-Star weekend. Being a part of the conference opens doors that most of us couldn't open on our own. And certainly this week, we are also immersed in information and best practices. On our agenda over the next 3 days are no fewer than 40 breakout sessions, in addition to our 6 plenaries covering every topic imaginable. If you don't learn something or steal something this week, you are simply not very good at this. And finally, of course, and this is always my favorite, this week is an embodiment of our collegiality and culture. No one else in your entire city knows what you go through, but then you walk through these doors and you are suddenly with 300 people who do. We are here to support each other. So take advantage of the social occasions we offer this week and meet your colleagues. Exchange cell phone numbers. Do something no other elected officials in America do anymore. Talk to an elected official from a different political party. We have our reception here tonight, and then we'll go to the Republic of Singapore Embassy, as you heard, tomorrow night. Don't miss those chances to be together. And also, don't miss our Mayor's Only session tonight at 4:40 p.m. I know it's a weird time. We cram every minute. We use every minute on that schedule. At 4:40 p.m. is our Mayor's Only session, where we will talk about your personal security as well as the immigration enforcement situation around the country. Now, these are challenging times, but we are the people truly leading this country through them. We are the adults in the room. And in that vein, I want to close with the important words of the Oklahoma City Declaration. We first signed this in Oklahoma City in September at our fall leadership meeting. We signed it at the Oklahoma City National Memorial under the survivor tree, where 168 Americans were murdered 30 years ago in the deadliest act of political violence in living memory. Since that day, over 230 bipartisan mayors have signed the Oklahoma City Declaration, and our adherence to these principles of pluralism, compromise, and persuasion instead of violence, this is why we are respected, and it is why we mayors are the keepers of the American experiment. I remind you that each of us who signed the Oklahoma City Declaration committed to the following: that political violence in any form is unacceptable and should be met with the harshest condemnation and penalties. We will condemn those who use or condone political violence and will seek full accountability for their actions, even if their political position was one with which we agreed. That even in a pluralistic society, those things we have in common still far exceed those things that make us different. We will seek ways to inject our shared humanity into debates, even when those debates are emotional. In fact, especially when those debates are emotional. We committed that civility matters because it is a reflection of our respect for our shared humanity. We will refrain from referring to those with whom we disagree by anything but their preferred name, and if they have a title, we will use it. That dehumanization is the rhetorical device that has paved the way to the worst atrocities in human history. We will refrain from referring to those Americans with whom we disagree as enemies or as evil or with terms that imply they are less than human in any way. We committed that we each deserve to be treated as individuals. We will refrain from imputing the actions or statements of one person or group to everyone we perceive to be in agreement with that person or group's political positions. We committed that there is no issue within the confines of the American experiment outside of insurrection or war that is truly existential, and we will refrain from apocalyptic political rhetoric. We committed that truth matters, especially when false information contributes to unnecessary outrage and emotion. We will refrain from spreading false information, and will correct and condemn the spread of false information, even when it originates from a person or group whose position is one with which we agree. We committed that everyone participating in the American experiment is motivated by the same thing, a better life for all of us. Unless there are serious allegations to the contrary, we will refrain from questioning the personal motivations of those with whom we disagree. We said that not every thought has to be expressed out loud, especially on social media. We committed that social media, that we will use it responsibly and with restraint. And finally, we stated that we are humans first, Americans second, and partisans last. Thank you for the honor of being your president. Enjoy the rest of the winter meeting, and we'll see you back here at lunch after the press conference. Thank you. This session is adjourned.